It will always blow my mind how 328 chapters into Berserk, after the Eclipse, the Conviction arc, Trolls, Witches, the Sea God, and so much more, Miura decides to drop a quiet little side story from Guts' past. And it ends up being such a beloved side story by everyone. I'm talking about Spring Flowers of Distant Days, chapter 329 to 331. I want to share my perspective on why this story hits so hard, especially this deep into the story, because it could have easily felt like filler, but it's essential. It's like Miura is pulling back the curtain on something we didn't even know we needed. It's not just more of Guts' backstory, but this specific story, this moment in his childhood that recontextualizes many things that I haven't seen many talk about, and it also explores a theme that has been explored in Berserk, but it's done very differently. But first, I want to talk about the placement of this story, as there's something interesting to look at, as I believe it's done on purpose. The chapter before this side story is when the Moonlight Boy leaves, Guts and Casca's child, who always shows up and saves Guts, showing kindness, warmth, and then disappears. And then the next chapter, we're back in the past with Guts, who meets this spirit named Chitch. Childlike and kind, finds Guts bleeding and helps him, just pure trust. The parallel is striking between the Moonlight Boy and Chitch. One is from the past, the other from the present, but both represent fleeting kindness, as they both suddenly appear and vanish just as quickly. And that's what this side story's theme is. It's about kindness. It examines kindness in all its forms, and the consequences they can carry, and what happens when we choose to carry them forward anyway. Not all kindness is good. Some are from a very naive mindset, some manipulative, selfish, toxic, but Miura doesn't categorize it as, oh, this is purely bad or this is purely good. Nothing in life is simple, which is why in this side story we get 3 different depictions of kindness with surprising results, and such a very heartwarming message for us the readers in the ending of this side story. The first depiction of kindness is with Martino. The story starts with Guts captured by enemy soldiers alongside other soldiers, and this old man named Martino talks to Guts in a kind way, gives Guts hope by telling him how even mercenaries like themselves are worthy of being saved, and how there may be something out there for people like them, and we even get a hawk flying in the sky. Then the old man helps Guts escape, but in reality he was being kind for his benefit. Selfish kindness. He is helping Guts escape so all the guards can run towards Guts while the old man tries to escape, and even Guts himself calls himself out for falling for this cliche. The story criticizes people who fall for this kind of kindness, but there's a twist to this. Because of this naivety of Guts for accepting that kindness, even if it ended up being selfish, in the end, this selfish kindness ended up saving Guts' life in the end when Martino returned in the last chapter with the rest of his men. And this makes us the readers question Guts being naive, having hope in people, and believing Martino in the beginning. Was it wrong? Now there isn't a definitive answer the side story gives us, but there is one thing it does teach us, which I will get into after these other 2 depictions of kindness that I want to talk about that this side story has, which brings us to Gambino. And my god, this to me was the biggest thing, as it recontextualizes Guts and Gambino's relationship, as this blew my mind when I first read it. When one reads the Golden Age arc, we the readers don't see anything that makes us go, I see. This is why Guts calls him father, and still viewed him as a father after his betrayal and attempt to kill him. This side story shows Gambino in his own twisted way that he really did love Guts. He constantly showed him toxic kindness. And what I mean by toxic kindness is him helping Guts in a way that's very toxic, even though he has his best intentions in his twisted mind. He genuinely gave him advice not for his benefit, but rather for Guts, to teach him as his father, as even Gambino himself called himself his father and told Guts to not even trust him, as shown in this moment where Gambino told Guts to advance in this moment despite there being a high chance of him dying, and it was all because he wanted to teach Guts to not trust anyone in the battlefield. And this toxic kindness once again isn't shown as purely bad, as shown in this chapter, as just like with Martino, Gambino's toxic kindness ended up helping and saving Guts as well, which brings us to our last depiction of kindness, with Chitch, the most cute spirit ever, and Chitch depicted kindness in its purest form, where there's no toxicity or manipulative or selfish, but just because she's kind and very trusting. One would call it naive and weak, especially in the world of Berserk, as Miura himself even wrote in this chapter that Guts thought Chitch was his hallucination, his weakness in the form of this kid. And my god, this is amazing writing, as in the first chapter, Guts criticized himself for falling for Martino's kindness, for having that pure trust kindness despite what Guts went through in his life. He still carries that kindness, as shown when he doesn't show anger at Chitch or even criticize Chitch, but rather Guts shows what he thinks is his weakness, that very same pure kindness Chitch is giving to Guts, that warmth. He's returning it back. And guess what? Just like the other depictions of kindness, this one that was criticized in the beginning also has a twist, where this pure, naive kindness also ended up saving Guts' life, as shown when he promised to carry Chitch's flower and take it to the other flowers. When he was holding this person hostage, the flower flew out, and instead of Guts prioritizing his own life, he let go of the hostage and went for the flower, which ends up saving Guts' life, as soldiers shot arrows, but Guts dodged it because he was going for the flower, for this naive, pure-kinded promise that he made Chitch. Miura explores these subjects in many ways, as even kindness in its purest form can be bad, as shown with Chitch, without realizing it, used up her entire life saving Guts. So all these three depictions of kindness that I brought up so far, now what is Miura trying to teach us? When one examines all three, and the ending of this side story, it becomes obvious what Miura is trying to tell us. Each of these forms of kindness can come with baggage, be it pain, loss, disillusionment, but Miura isn't telling us to reject them. He's asking, what do you do with the kindness you've been shown, even if it was flawed, manipulative, selfish, temporary, or painful? And Guts is showing us the answer, depending on what you take from it and learn from it. The kindness and trust Chitch showed Guts, while it is true that her naive kindness cost her life, but that kindness didn't dissipate. Guts carries it with him now, the flower being the symbolism for kindness and trust. And guess what Guts did in the end of this side story? He threw the flower where the other flowers are, making the flowers scatter everywhere, showing that yes, many die because of their naive ideals and trust in the world of Berserk, but it doesn't mean it's the bad choice. Guts carries it with him, and their kindness takes new form, which ends up helping all the people Guts now calls his friends. All types of kindness can have both positive and negative effects, so it's important to have balance, as Guts, despite being broken and even criticizing his naive kindness, he still carries a bit of it with him. This side story reminds us of something crucial. Berserk and Guts isn't just a symbol of rage and survival. He's also someone, despite having a cruel life and became more cynical, still carries what he calls a weakness, that being kindness and trust in him, and it will never truly disappear. Well, that was my perspective on this amazing side story. Hope you enjoyed.